Imagine stepping outside your spacecraft. No helmet. No oxygen tank. No bulky suit separating you from the infinite black of space. Instead of instant death, you breathe calmly, your body stable, your heart steady, your mind clear while Earth floats silently beneath you and the stars burn endlessly ahead. It sounds impossible. Terrifying. Almost godlike. But what if humans could survive in space without suits? What would actually change not just for space travel, but for biology, evolution, civilization, and the meaning of being human itself? Welcome to Information World. To understand what surviving in space without suits truly means, we first need to understand why space is so deadly to humans in the first place. Space is not just empty darkness. It is an environment that violently contradicts everything life on Earth depends on. No breathable air, near absolute zero temperatures, intense radiation, extreme pressure differences, and complete exposure to cosmic forces make space one of the most hostile places imaginable. Right now, if an unprotected human were suddenly exposed to space, they would lose consciousness in about 10 to 15 seconds. Oxygen would be ripped from their lungs, body fluids would begin to boil at normal body temperature, and radiation would damage cells at a terrifying speed. Death would follow quickly. So when we imagine humans surviving without suits, we are not talking about a small improvement. We are talking about a fundamental rewrite of human biology. Let's begin with breathing. Humans rely on oxygen not just to stay conscious, but to keep every cell alive. Oxygen is essential for producing ATP, the energy currency of cells. Without it, cells begin to fail within minutes. For humans to survive in space without suits, one of two impossible sounding changes must occur. Either humans would no longer need oxygen at all, or our bodies would need to extract energy in a completely different way. Some organisms on Earth already hint at this possibility. Certain bacteria survive without oxygen using anaerobic metabolism. Tardigrades, tiny organisms known as water bears, can survive the vacuum of space by entering a cryptobiotic state, essentially shutting down their metabolism entirely. If humans evolved or were engineered to enter a controlled low-energy state while in space, breathing might no longer be necessary. But surviving consciously without oxygen would require something far more radical, a new energy system for cells. Instead of oxygen-based metabolism, human cells could theoretically rely on direct chemical energy storage, radiation-powered biochemical reactions, or even bioelectric systems that function independently of respiration. This would turn humans into something closer to living energy processors than oxygen-breathing mammals. Now consider pressure. Space has almost zero pressure. On Earth, atmospheric pressure keeps gases dissolved in our blood and fluids stable. Remove that pressure, and gases expand violently. This is why body fluids boil in space, not because of heat, but because pressure drops so low. For humans to survive, our bodies would need to become structurally rigid at the cellular level. Cell membranes would have to be reinforced. Blood vessels would need internal pressure regulation independent of the environment. Perhaps humans would develop internal biofields, natural force-like pressure systems that stabilize the body regardless of external conditions. Some scientists speculate about future humans developing denser cellular structures or adaptive membranes that instantly seal and stabilize internal pressure. Skin might become thicker, semi-transparent, or layered with protective biological polymers acting like a natural spacesuit grown from within. Then there's temperature. Space is not uniformly cold or hot, it is extreme in both directions. In shadow, temperatures drop to hundreds of degrees below zero. In direct sunlight, temperatures can soar above boiling levels. Humans surviving in space would need complete thermal independence. Our bodies would have to generate, absorb, and redistribute heat with perfect efficiency. Instead of sweating or shivering, future humans might regulate temperature through advanced cellular heat exchange, radiating excess heat like stars or absorbing energy directly from sunlight. Skin could become reflective, dark, or adaptive, changing properties based on exposure. Imagine skin that darkens to absorb energy in cold darkness, then becomes mirror-like under intense solar radiation. Temperature would no longer be something that threatens life, it would be something the body actively controls. Radiation, however, is perhaps the greatest challenge of all. Cosmic radiation and solar particles constantly bombard space. On Earth, our atmosphere and magnetic field protect us. In space, radiation tears through DNA, increasing cancer risk and destroying cells. To survive without protection, humans would need radiation-proof biology. This could mean radically improved DNA repair mechanisms, similar to those found in certain extremophile organisms. Every time radiation damages DNA, the body would instantly repair it perfectly, endlessly. Another possibility is internal radiation shielding. Human cells could evolve dense molecular structures that absorb or deflect radiation. Bones might become more metallic in composition. Blood could contain radiation-absorbing compounds. The body itself would become a living shield. At this point, it becomes clear that humans surviving in space without suits would no longer be the same species we are today. Now let's talk about muscles and bones. In microgravity, muscles weaken and bones lose density because they are no longer working against gravity. Astronauts must exercise constantly just to prevent their bodies from deteriorating. But suit-less space humans would likely evolve beyond gravity dependence entirely. Muscles could anchor internally instead of relying on external force. Bones might become flexible yet unbreakable, structured more like carbon fiber than calcium. Movement would no longer rely on walking or standing, but controlled propulsion, subtle body movements, or even bioelectric field manipulation. You wouldn't walk in space. You wouldn't float helplessly either. You would move with intention. Vision would also change. Space is filled with intense light contrasts absolute darkness and blinding brightness side by side. Human eyes would need adaptive lenses far beyond current capability. Pupils could reshape dynamically. Retinas might process wider spectrums of light, including infrared and ultraviolet. Humans could literally see radiation, energy flows, and cosmic structures invisible today. Sound does not travel in space, but communication would not be lost. Future humans might rely on direct neural communication, electromagnetic signaling, or even light-based signaling. Language itself could change from spoken words to transmitted thoughts or encoded signals. Now imagine the psychological effects. Human minds evolved in gravity, surrounded by sound, air, and familiar horizons. Space removes all of that. Endless darkness. Infinite distance. Absolute silence. Surviving mentally in space would require a mind adapted to infinity. Fear of heights, isolation, and darkness would disappear. The human sense of self might expand beyond the body. Identity could become more collective, more cosmic. Concepts like up and down would lose meaning. Time perception might also change. Without day and night cycles, human circadian rhythms would evolve. Sleep could become optional. Consciousness might operate in extended cycles or continuous awareness states. Now consider civilization. If humans could survive in space without suits, space would stop being a destination and become a habitat. No need for massive spacecraft interiors. No fragile space stations. Humans could live on asteroids, drift between planets, build cities in orbit without walls. Entire civilizations could exist in open space, anchored by technology or biology rather than gravity. Exploration would explode. Traveling through space would feel more like swimming through an ocean than riding inside a fragile machine. Colonization of planets would become secondary. Why settle on Mars when space itself is home? Economics would change. Borders would vanish. Resources could be harvested directly from stars, gas clouds, and asteroids. Energy would be abundant. Scarcity would lose meaning. Even war would change. Traditional weapons would be useless in open space societies. Conflict might shift from physical dominance to control of energy, information, or consciousness. Religion and philosophy would be transformed. If humans could survive in space unaided, the boundary between life and the cosmos would blur. Humans would no longer feel separate from the universe. We would exist within it directly. Ancient questions would return in new forms. Are we meant to stay on planets? Was intelligence always meant to escape gravity? Is life a temporary phase or a cosmic force evolving toward universality? Some might see suitless space survival as becoming godlike. Others might see it as losing humanity. The debate would redefine what it means to be human. But there is a darker side. If humans evolved or engineered themselves to survive in space, Earth-based humans might become obsolete. A divide could form between planetary humans and cosmic humans. Different biology. Different abilities. Different values. Would space-adapted humans still care about Earth? Would they protect it or abandon it? Would they still see themselves as human at all? Evolution does not ask for permission. Once the path begins, it rarely stops. In the end, the question isn't just what if humans could survive in space without suits. The real question is whether we are ready for what that survival would turn us into. Because surviving space doesn't just mean resisting vacuum, radiation, and cold. It means letting go of gravity, borders, limitations, and perhaps even the idea of humanity as we know it. And if that future ever arrives, space will no longer be the final frontier. It will be home. If you enjoyed this deep exploration of the future of humanity and the universe, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more mind-expanding content.